Hey guys, it is not looking good in Iceland, not at all. This volcano is doing its own thing, despite some professors from the University of Iceland that predicted this thing is going to be over. If this current eruption ends, it's going to be over in this area, in the Sutnuka craters areas. It'll die off, it'll put a lid on, nothing. And what did the volcano say? Well, it was letting them in the unknown for a little bit. The last eruption stopped basically last weekend, and we know that the land had already started to rise again a little bit during the eruption, but the curve was flatter than the usual curves. It wasn't going with the same speed as it was filling up that shallow magma chamber underneath Svartsengi in between the previous events, right? We always had like eruptions was starting to fill up again. With the last eruption, it was filling up during the last eruption and during this one as well. But it seems it was losing steam, and it was like, oh yeah, so these pipes from the deeper reservoir that feed the shallow magma chamber, they're solidifying, it's dying off. And what did the volcano say? The volcano said, hold my beer, I'll show you. So what is it doing? The land's not only started to rise again, it's accelerating. And not only that, the volcano puts one on top of it. And how does it do that? The land rise is at the same speed as before this eruption that just ended. So it seems the whole thing is going to repeat itself, and it's not over in the summer. And we'll talk about this in this video because there's some new interesting information. And of course, we have the University of Iceland, and especially Thorvaldur and a volcanologist that I value very much, but he's always battling with the Icelandic Meteorological Office, what they're saying. And Thorvaldur wasn't 100% right just recently. So he disagrees again with the Met Office, so we'll talk about that and some other stuff as well. What are they doing to prepare for the next shizzy that's hitting the fizzy? Because it was a very close call this time at Svartsengi. You know, when the volcanic eruption was in its last lifetime circles, it was sending out a greeting with a blast towards Svartsengi, towards the Svartsengi defense walls and over the Svartsengi defense walls. So everything had gone smoothly, but then all of a sudden, ooh, right? The first time it was only crawling on top of the defense wall, and it wasn't such a big deal. Same thing had happened in the previous eruption at the defense wall of Grindavik at the northeastern part. It was slowly just, you know, the black stuff, the solidified stuff was pushed up there. So they decided in Grindavik to build a second row of defense walls should that thing flow over. But then north of the crater that was erupting, basically a little bit northwest at Sillingerfell, that's a little mountain there was a lava pond forming. So the volcano said, well, so that I can be a little bit stronger and send the lava a little bit faster and further and make you guys sweat a little more, I'll form a lake and I collect the lava there, and then I let it break, and then there's a waterfall that was flowing north of Sillingerfell towards the defense walls, along the defense walls, along Grindavik, that access road to the tourist attraction, the Blue Lagoon. Again, big time, and then it was starting to creep over the defense walls. But it was only really getting critical when the volcano said, hold my beer again, I'll do that a second time. I want to do that right. And the second time, you saw the black lava carpet, and it was getting higher. It was creeping over the defense wall, but then all of a sudden, like an underground hole opened, and this liquid, red, orange lava was flowing over the defense wall and spreading, not crawling, flowing and spreading into Svartsengi, inside Svartsengi, towards the power plant and the Blue Lagoon. The power plant is the first thing that it will hit. So they were like, oh, we got to do something. So they all of a sudden, they started like trying to, for the first time, cool the tip of the lava tongue with water. So they brought in pumps and fire trucks. They were cooling it. They brought in dozers to put gravel over it, to push it. So after all this happened, after they saw that the volcano, that the crater is dying off, the lava was still coming for a few days. It was still pushing. The lava that had already come out was still pushing and moving forward. So it wasn't that far away from piping system, overground piping systems and overhead power lines. It was about little less than 1 kilometer away from the actual big buildings of the power plant, but it could have hit these pipes already. So they were kind of like, when they saw that the volcano's dying down, right? And they're saying now, we are really glad that it stopped. And also the forward moving of the rest of the lava that was coming out has stopped now. So for now, it's at a standstill between the Icelanders and the volcano. But they knew, and they're saying this was a very, very close call. So had the crater continued to erupt longer and had it sent more lava, it would have been a big problem. And the people responsible, they also said, basically, we're trying to do what we can, but we cannot guarantee it. And so in light of that, there's a lot of discussion going on, but we need to talk about this accelerated land rise. But first, let's talk about what will all these new measures cost? Because they're still building, they're still working on the defense wall around Svartsengi. And you know, they have ordered equipment, they need more water pumps, they need to prepare it a lot better for the next round. So what they're saying is, of course, on the one hand, they have gained valuable experience from the operations, the lava holdback operations that they have conducted with the water and with the dozers. So they say the response teams have gained control of the lava flow over the dikes that came from Sillingerfell, but only because the eruption stopped. We have to be honest here as well. So they want to buy new equipment for about 450 million Icelandic kronas. So that equipment is for cooling the lava, like the cooling equipment, and they can also use it should there be wildfires. There were a few wildfires with the eruptions and a few larger ones like the moss fires, because it's then so dry. So the civil defense has ordered this. They still say it's too early to tell whether the cooling of the lava did have a major effect on the overall success of holding the lava back. But they say it's believed to be working, and no one can say for sure whether it was the cooling of the lava or that just the lava flow has decreased. The latter is probably more likely, and the problem is, you cannot just say, well, let's buy a pump. These pumps, these devices that they need for that, they're not available in Iceland. Iceland is an island, so they need to order them and then they need to ship them there. So it's costly. So what is the current status? Let's talk about what the Icelandic MET Office is saying before we talk about what Thorvaldur is saying and what he's saying about them. So the Icelandic MET Office has released a press release, and they're saying the land rise in Svartsengi continues with increased speed. So the seismic activity at Svartsengi and the Sutnuka crater series is very low, and very few small earthquakes have been recorded in the recent days. That's no surprise, because the eruption is over and the magma chamber needs to fully refill first. So the lava that's moving towards the north side of Sillingerfell continued to flow very slowly since the eruption ended on June 22nd, and they believe it has now completely stopped. And then they're saying that a team from the Institute of Natural Sciences and Land Survey of Iceland has worked on the data that they have collected, has processed the data, and that they have done also during a drone flight over the eruption centers on June 24th. And these data give them the conclusion that the lava carpet is really, really large right now. It spans an area of 9.3 square kilometers. And you can see this picture here where you can also see where the highest amounts are. So the volume is also large. It's 45 million cubic meters. So more than double the amount that they thought was in the shallow magma chamber when the eruption started. So it's been refilling quite a bit from the deeper magma chamber. So that map shows the extent and the thickness of the lava bed that has formed in this eruption. Then this eruption has started on May 29th, almost a month, right? You can see where the lava has collected in the lava pond, that's southeast of Slingerfell, that's the red area. And then you can see the lava stream that flows from there north of Slingerfell. And the gray areas show that lava has flowed in this area since the first eruption, since December 2023. So you can see really it's quite high there. So the darkest red would be more than 32 meters, so more than 100 feet. And so we have here basically at Slingerfell this orange area. I think it's between 20 and 28 meters high. And then of course it's where the crater was, there it's higher again. And then quite a bit did flow east as well, but there it didn't cause that much trouble. So the trouble that this one did cause is basically it did flow south along the western defense walls around Grindavik, and it did flow over Grindavik and over Nesvegur there. So both roads were cut off. So nobody could get in and out of Grindavik. So Grindavik was basically destroyed twice by this lava flow, at the doorstep of Grindavik and also then at Svartsengi. And there you can see that part here that's a little bit west of Slingerfell, where it's orange. That's where they were fighting the lava the most. And then they have also released the latest deformation measurements that they have conducted with GNS and INSAR satellite images. And these images, they clearly show that the land rise under Svartsengi continues. So you see that little circle here, it's light blue inside. And there you see the yellow and the red circle around it. That's the Svartsengi area, so to speak. It continues, and it also shows the speed of the land increased after the eruption ended, and it's now greater than what was measured before the eruption began on May 29th. So not only the same, it's greater. That means the shallow magma chamber is filling up even faster with more magma than it did before the last eruption started on May 29th. So the volcano is really saying, hold my beer, Thorwaldur, because we'll hear what he has to say. And Thorwaldur basically was one of the guys that said, no, this is going to end this summer. This was the last eruption. So the rate of deformation that this image shows can be interpreted as that magma inflow into the magma chamber that lies between 4 and 5 kilometers underneath Svartsengi, underneath the geothermal power plant and the Blue Lagoon. So they say that from the period of June 13th to June 25th, it shows that there was a land rise of about 3 to 4 centimeters at the greatest spot. And remember, these images are a few days old. They're like 5 to 6 days old. So it has increased more. Their conclusion is, they're saying, with these assumptions and these pictures, these data as a guide, it can be assumed that the system will behave in a similar way as before, and that a new magma intrusion and or an eruption will occur again in the Sutnuka crater series in the coming weeks. They're saying, as of today, it is difficult to predict with certainty how the situation will develop. That's always the case. Before every eruption, they said that, right? It is hard to predict. They say the data that they will collect in the coming days and weeks will help assess the situation and possibly understand changes and trends within the magmatic system. So that's what the Icelandic MET Office is saying. And then Thorvaldur Thorvaldsson has given a statement, basically as a response to what they're saying. Basically, he takes this announcement that the Met Office made with reservations when it comes to what they're saying about the land rise. He does not believe that there will be any eruptions in the area anytime soon. Why? Thorvaldur says land rise in Svartsengi started approximately 4 days after the last eruption, but it has been quite slow until now. Yeah, but does he have the latest data? It has accelerated, and the Met Office is saying it's faster than before the eruption, and they have the data and the pictures. So he says, however, I do not see any increase in the land rise based on the data that I have at hand. And I cannot see that the land rise is at the same speed as it was on the evening of the previous eruptions before they started. That's why I take all of this with a grain of salt. While the Met Office says it's not only at the same speed, it's even higher, which is concerning, right? He says, we don't know what the pipes are like down there. No, we don't. But we have quite a little bit experience now with that system since November 10, right? Because it's been happening every month. So he says that it does not mean that the Met Office's interpretation is wrong, but basically he points out that other factors also play a role in determining whether an eruption will start in the near future. That's for sure correct, but you know, the history over the last 8 months shows us if there is a land rise and if the magma chamber is filling up, it always did end up with an eruption or at least an intrusion. He thinks, and that's his opinion, if we look at the bigger picture, the flow from the deeper magma chamber to the shallower magma chamber has been steadily reduced. Yes, that's true. It did reduce since November, like cut in half, but now it's accelerating again. So it's not dying off. He says the contraction of magma flow into the shallower magma chamber is faster than the increase of the land rise in Svartsengi. And based on that, it's just as likely that it will stop erupting there. I don't know. I mean, I hope he's right? What do you think, guys? He says that would mean all the eruptions in the Sutnuka crater series will stop. He says this is one possible interpretation based on the data that I have, but this interpretation only reflects the quality of his data. I think I'm with the Met Office on this one, guys. I really think, because also another expert at the Icelandic MET Office has said in an interview that based on the latest numbers that they have been given today, it seems that the land rise has returned to a similar speed that it had before the last eruption. And that's why they're saying history seems to repeat itself. And the magma accumulation under Svartsengi is the same as before, and it has even accelerated. They're saying that again. So they're saying it seems to be a repeated story. In general, we're seeing 8 to 13 million cubic meters of magma before an eruption or an intrusion happens. Well, this time we were at like 20 million cubic meters. My guess is next time it will be in the 20 million range again, but you never know. Of course, they're saying we can expect at least a few weeks before we get to the point of going into increased preparedness. They think that the last eruption was an exception, that there was more than 20 million cubic meters of magma that had accumulated. That's why basically they are saying if we're looking at some comparable eruptions like the Krafla eruptions, always the amount that was in the magma chamber had always to be increased in order to trigger the next eruption. So yeah, probably we will need more than 20 million cubic meters this time. So how are they going to be prepared? They have released some data, what the defense wall or the basic defense construction will cost them. About 7 billion Icelandic kronas. I think that's roughly $50 million. So that's according to information from the Office of the Commissioner of the National Police. So that's for the defense walls on the Reykjanes Peninsula. So they will definitely strengthen and raise the defense walls at Svartsengi. That's decided now. But they're also thinking about building other defense walls in other areas on the Reykjanes Peninsula, because it could be really, really bad. Watch my video about this. This is basically something you don't hear much from the Icelandic officials, if not at all. I haven't heard this before. So if you're interested in what's going on in Iceland in this area, watch this video. It'll blow your mind. It's in the end screen, but you see the thumbnail here. So guys, that was another update about Iceland. I think we will keep an eye on Iceland for quite a while. I don't think that was it. If you, as I said, watch my video, it could be the opposite, and not only one eruption, a different scenario that is more scary than what we've just seen before. So watch that video, guys. Leave this one a like, please. Please leave it a like. It helps my channel. That would be a great support. And of course, thank you so much for the coffees you keep buying me. If you want to continue to support this channel, the link is in the description. And of course, thanks for your supers, guys. You're wonderful. I love you, and I hope to see you very, very soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.